Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very important and special occasion. D1 Rejects right back at you in the basement. Kobe, who's sitting next to me right here?
Jim
Who's sitting next to me?
Why don't you introduce yourself? Very excited to have him on.
Well, I have to thank my friend Drew Carpenter, renowned Browns fan, also Lions fan, because if Drew was in town, I'd be upstairs watching Hallmark movies with your mother.
Yep.
So I'd much rather be down here. So thank you, Drew.
Drew is not with us this week. He is in Texas, where he'll be going to the Rose Bowl game here pretty soon. So that's going to be something. We were going to have him on, but he got a little too busy for us. It's going to be at a carnival or something tonight. So, yeah, big-time guy right there. But today's podcast, also sitting with me, you'll also see Blaze Lauer, quarterback at Ohio Northern University. Blaze.
Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Glad to have you.
Be here.
Now, Blaze and Hunter as well, a couple of the boys here from the Cheap Seats podcast at Lake Orion High School is reunited.
It was my podcast, and
until I took it over.
I gave it to you.
It was
and
like
then I gave you this one.
The Favre to Rogers. The Favre to Rogers. That's what it was.
Favre? I'll take Favre.
Yeah, Rogers
I'll take Favre.
Better stats, but yeah.
I'll take
Got
Favre.
a beard. Favre, scruffy.
I think I like the Alex Smith
Likes
to
the
Mahomes better.
Yeah, that's fair too.
I'll take Smith.
Oh, Mahomes is a great
Favre
player.
would have thrived in Houghton, too. Michigan State. He'd have been right in his element.
But after we talked to Blaze here for a bit about his experience at the Division III level, we will talk to offensive lineman from Michigan State University, Dan VanOpstall, redshirt sophomore there. I'm super excited for that conversation. I think that's going to be awesome. He's a great guy. I had a chance to talk to him a little bit throughout the week. But I'm excited to hear your takes as well on the Lions as we get into that. But first, let's go over some of the things and some of the topics for today's podcast. We'll get into what NFL games have the biggest playoff implications this weekend as we get closer. Only one more week, right, in the regular season. Really, a lot of it's locked up, but there are still some games in the air.
All 16 games on Sunday, first time all year.
All 16. Mm-hmm. And I will say this is the first year in the NFL where we've had a game played on every day of the week.
They may have a referee shortage.
They may. So they might be looking to you to actually get that call in. You've already got the hat on. That's bias. They'd see this podcast and know that you're biased.
Guaranteed there'll be a holding call in there somewhere.
But the NFL games, the Jets get a big win over a depleted Cleveland team. The Seahawks clinch the NFC West. Green Bay dominates on Monday Night Football. Yada, yada, yada. We'll get into it. Reactions from our week of college bowl games and who surprised or disappointed us in the bowl games. Coastal Carolina. Terrible. Mullets. Cut them. All right. But
Shots.
After that, to finish things off, well, not to finish things off, but we're going to get an in-depth look at a lot of the New Year's 6 bowl games, talk about all of those games and especially the college football playoff picture, what we're expecting from there. And finally, what teams and players impressed us in this past week of football. Hopefully some guys that we kind of missed or glance over during the podcast duration. But as always, we're chilling in the basement, talking football, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're watching us on YouTube, hello. You can find us pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. But Blaze, Ohio Northern University quarterback and former stud at Lake Orion High School, the Backfield Bros. It's good to have you back, brother.
Bros. Good to be
good
back.
to have you back.
Run, Forrest, run.
When your quarterback is the fastest guy on your team, that's a good problem. I think it's a good problem to have.
It's good or bad.
Yeah?
Because you don't know how fast he is.
That's good. But you at Ohio Northern, you guys got what seemed to be like a lot of football compared to the GLIAC, at least with Hunter and I, with, like you said, the spring game, which you were balling out through
Fall
a tutty.
game.
Yeah, fall game.
Right, yeah.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that's true. Fall game. Probably felt like a spring game type thing. But
It did. It was actually like 70 degrees.
I don't know why I said that. But, yeah. Jeez, you imagine? Not in Marquette, I'll tell you that much. But what was that like, at least, getting a bunch of chances and opportunities to kind of prove yourself heading into freshman year?
No, it felt good. Like the way that everything went, obviously it wasn't per usual, No.
So but we don't know what that is yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like usual.
It was unfortunate for some guys, like seniors, older guys like that. But I think for all the freshmen, it was like a great chance for a learning opportunity pretty much, since we weren't like rushed straight into games and everything like that. We had lots of time to learn the schemes and stuff like that, get used to the players, coaches, how stuff's ran. So
yeah,
I think it was pretty helpful for me at least.
Oh, I bet. I'm like, just how important you think it is just to take advantage. I mean, I already know your answer, but like taking advantage of those reps, and especially as a freshman, a guy coming in at a position like quarterback that demands respect, and then you got to, have that leadership capability as well. How important is it to take advantage of like literally every single opportunity you get?
Yeah. So we have a lot of quarterbacks on the roster. I think 8 or 9.
Oh boy.
So there's a lot of standing. There's a lot of standing around in between drills. So one thing I learned pretty quick was when you're in, you better do good because you don't get very many chances.
I would say you might not get back out there if you act a fool.
Right.
Did they go full contact on the QBs at the
in this fall game?
Fall game.
Mm-hmm.
Did they?
They did.
We did.
Yeah.
So remember when we talked to Ari Hunter and we played a couple of his clips from Ellsworth Community College?
Right.
Dude just goes through. I mean, that's a different level of football. Those guys are trying to get looks. You know what I mean? So like, the coaches are really just trying to give them the best opportunity to put stuff on film. They were killing the quarterback. Poor quarterback. He was dying. Yeah. Like Ari came through and check out our Twitter page. Yeah, check out the Twitter page where we did post some of those highlights at D1_rejects. We post all the highlights on there. Getting the Instagram up and running here pretty soon too. Enough plugging. But I wanted to know, because for you guys, 5-game spring schedule starting in March. When do you guys get back up to campus? Get to work?
Oh, we get back on the 17th, January 17th.
Okay.
Start school on the
Not
19th, and then I think it's about a month or so until we actually start practice. I'm not sure of the official date, but somewhere in February we start lifting.
Surprised, yeah.
We start lifting a little bit. Actually, we'll be lifting as soon as we get back. But
they've already got that all laid out for you guys?
Yeah. Coach Paul does a really good job of keeping everything in order.
That's good.
Pretty much has a schedule down for like 3-4 months ahead. He's a really organized guy.
And I think that's been the hardest thing for coaches, because they're a breed of guys who love to have that organization and that level of neatness and planning. A lot of them, at least. You don't find a lot of guys who are coaching, at least not a lot of good coaches, that just kind of, hold on by the whatever. But that's been the hardest thing, I think, for a lot of the coaches, is that they haven't had that ability to be able to plan things out. When we talked to Coach Blackstock, our high school coach, obviously, he was telling me about how the adaptability, I guess, I don't know, he kind of made that word up. I don't know if that's a real word, but that ability to adapt on the fly and how important that's been. I think that translates to the players too, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. How does that affect you guys? How would you say?
Well, I think, first we started off lifting, went through all the protocols and stuff like that. And then once we finally got into practice, started getting going a little bit, full pads. And then, we had a couple people in the athletic department get COVID.
Of course.
Filtered over to the football team eventually.
Yeah.
Then we had to shut down practice for a week, 2 weeks maybe. Then we just did Zoom meetings. We had to do workouts over Zoom since we couldn't go in the weight room or anything.
Those are fun.
But then we came back and we started practicing again slowly. The protocols again. But I think the guys did a really good job handling that.
That's good. That's good. I know for us and for everyone, I mean, football is one of the largest teams, if not the largest, that you're going to have on campus, right? So when you're talking about COVID cases, like, okay, the dive team, swim and dive team got a COVID case. No disrespect. There's probably 10 kids on the team. Only 10. Like, when you, on the football team, if a couple kids get COVID, you're looking at 80, 90, potentially 100 kids that are now in a somewhat high-risk situation because of, like being in a close proximity to those type of people. But I just think that's interesting, especially, up at Northern. We got a couple full padded practices in, I think about a week and a half of full padded practice. But then one of our quarterbacks goes down, 2 other guys go down, positive COVID test during the testing period, and then they just pulled the plug. And it was from there, just kind of, it sucked. It really sucked. And I don't think we did any Zoom workouts or anything, because they closed not only our weight room for the football program, but also like the recreational facility up there, the PEEF, and like, that's what
happened to us too. We had to work out in our dorm room with all the we were in a Zoom call.
Really?
Everybody was doing it
together. A lot of body weight, a lot of
just body weight.
That's man.
Push-ups.
I have seen a lot of people get really creative though over quarantine. I've seen whole workouts done. I think you did some with a towel.
I did.
Right? You were telling me about those in the off season before you actually got to ONU.
Right.
Like that's just got to be different.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different mindset.
Very creative.
Yeah, and you said, like, those are real, though. Those are legit workouts. Like, people, your strength coach does not mess around.
You would think it's just a body weight workout in my dorm, but you get sweating.
Yeah. That's awesome. But before you actually ended up at ONU or even committed to ONU, you were slated to go to North Central College, right? The defending Division III national champion. So what was the change for you, and what made you had polar bears, right?
Yep, polar bears.
What made, first of all,
polar bears and 70 degrees at your spring game? Sounds right.
In November.
First of all,
Tough conditions.
Awesome mascot. But what made the polar bears, the right fit for you over North Central? I don't know what their mascot is.
Right, Cardinals, I think.
Of course, yeah.
So after I committed to North Central, I was feeling pretty good about it initially, But then, after a while, I felt like something was wrong. I felt like I'd made a wrong decision, I guess you could say.
Go on easy.
And then, I called Coach Paul from ONU, and we had to talk about it. And then I met with him and some other coaches, and then just the family atmosphere that they conveyed to me. It was just that I knew that was the right choice.
Yeah, I get that. And a lot of kids this year in this recruiting class, high school class of 2021, they don't get that. Exactly what you're talking about. A chance to sit down and meet with the coaches and have a feel for that atmosphere, if you will. You know what I mean? How you might have not changed your mind had you not had that, that decision and that being able to do that with COVID and everything, if that was going around. I mean, I just got a feel for these guys that are going through this. How would, how do you think that would change that process for you recruiting wise?
What was the question?
How would the COVID right now and not being able to go meet with those coaches, how would that change that process for you? How would you go, kind of go about it?
I probably wouldn't be at ONU if
Yeah.
I couldn't meet with them.
Right.
I went on my visit sometime in the spring.
Yep.
When I went on my visits, and the campus was pretty nice to me. I got to see around and stuff like that. But once I actually got there and started going to school, I was like, wow, this place is really way nicer than I expected.
Oh, what a nice
And
surprise.
The guys on the team were super nice. Coaches were super nice. It just literally felt like I was at home. I wasn't getting homesick at all.
There you go.
It just felt like the right place to be. I had no regrets about anything.
Great segue to my question, please. I could come on and say, gee, what's the biggest jump from high school to college? Is it the speed of the game? I always love when they ask that. Of course that's going to be it. But when you got up to campus, you've been there for 4 or 5 months. This is I think back when I was at Hope College. I mean,
there we go.
Football, basketball, the basketball, Hope Calvin, the whole community came out. Have you got a feel there of how important football is to that town, or is it hard to do or hard to feel because of the COVID? Or do you get a sense, though, that it's pretty important there?
Ada's not a very big town.
Right.
And I know, there's not that many people at the university, so football is probably, the biggest team there, obviously. It would be anywhere.
Yeah.
But I can just tell because Coach Paul, he's lived in Ada for a long time. He's been the head coach there for a long time. You can just tell by the way he presents himself to the team and talks in the meetings. You can just tell the passion that he has for the game. And I know he's probably disappointed that we can't be together right now for this long break that we're having.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely tell how important it is.
He's been there how long?
That's good.
15 or so years, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did they allow fans at
Probably more than that, I
the
think.
spring game?
Just close family.
Family, okay.
That's smart. I think that's pretty smart. I know for Marquette, if you haven't realized, there's not a whole lot going on in the UP. I mean, Marquette's the largest city in the UP. You've got Houghton going on up there
Other than
as well.
Houghton. There's always something popping in Houghton.
Always something popping open.
Is Hunter still here?
Yeah. But Marquette, biggest city in the UP, but it's a college town. It's right on campus. Downtown is probably 3 or 4 minutes from the heart of our campus. So, obviously that impact is there and everything. I think that's important for you guys to see that your coach 15 years, not exact, but about.
Yeah.
He's been there.
I think it's more than that, actually.
He's been there for,
I'm not sure of the exact number.
I mean, that too, coming in as a guy who, he's going to recruit you. He's going to honor that commitment to you. And especially if he's been there for that long, I think that makes your decision
I know
a lot
sent
easier.
out a tweet a little bit ago about you need a coach who believes in you. And if you that's the feeling I got from him and from all the coaches when I
That's
committed.
important.
That's very important. Because if you don't, that's a two-way street, right? They're going to believe in you or else they wouldn't be recruiting you to come to their university, their school. But if you don't believe in them, you don't want to play for them. You know what I mean? So, that's super important.
I think there's a lot of coaches out there who will act like they believe in you.
Oh, yeah.
Once
you sign that letter, and then, you're right. Once they're offered not necessarily a better alternative, but a flashier alternative, a more lucrative alternative. Sometimes that gets kind of lost in the wash, huh?
Right. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
I think very interesting. But appreciate you having on. You'll be with us the rest of the time. I'm not kicking you out or anything. Right. But let's get to a great conversation that I am really looking forward to with Dan VanOpstall, from Michigan State University. Let's go right to talking with that offensive tackle. Joining us today on Division I Rejects, we've got the 6'6", 305-pound redshirt sophomore offensive lineman at Michigan State University out of Jenison High School. It's Dan VanOpstall. How's it going, Dan? How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Fantastic, man. Stoked to have you on today. But I was wondering, what have the holidays been like for the guys on the team? Obviously trying to avoid those, situations potentially during the season that would cost your guys some games or some players with COVID going around. How have the holidays been?
Holidays for us, Coach Tech was really big on maintaining the bubble, which I thought we did a very good job of. A lot of teams you saw throughout the Big Ten had problems with COVID. We did not.
Oh, yeah.
So, for Thanksgiving, they asked our families, they said, hey, we know it's tough, but we're trying to maintain our bubble. So, no families for Thanksgiving, but, they had dinners and stuff for us. So it was tough, but it was good.
Yeah, that's all right. That's the right mindset to have. I think I've heard from a couple of guys on the team because I've played against a lot of those guys that play up there at Michigan State. Did you guys do some stuff? I thought I heard with the coaches and some of the other players for Thanksgiving and some of those other things.
Yeah, absolutely. So post practice, they had a little Thanksgiving dinner meal for us.
That's
things
awesome.
that we would bring home. A lot of the individual position coaches had things for their position groups, the linebackers. They had some sort of dessert thing that they had. So that was
there.
good.
You go. Yeah, that's awesome, buddy. I want to talk to you because you came out of high school. I did my research here. You came out of high school going into Michigan State. You were 255 pounds. Now you're 305 sitting here, almost 3 years later. What do they do there to put weight on you guys and just make you fill out that huge frame of yours and get you to be that massive? Are they just shoving food down your throat?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it. They, especially under Coach Tucker, he has made, meals mandatory at the cafeteria street. So, for me, I'm not one of the weight gain guys anymore.
There you go.
The team who, it's mandatory meal times. You have to be in by this time. You have to, show your food on the way out. And our our nutrition and strength staff, they try to get with us a fair bit too, just to, here's how you're on track. This is what we need you to do. Just to get us to that point where, you can start playing and contributing a little bit.
Yeah, no, I get that. The college level is different, man. Especially, I don't know how much. I'm a freshman going at Northern Michigan University, and you get out there, and there's not high school guys anymore. 23-year-old dudes that have been redshirted and they've been there for 5 years at a university, and those are grown men. But you mentioned it, life under Coach Tucker, and I wanted to ask you because you came onto the team in 2018, so you had a few years under D'Antonio before his retirement. What has this year been like under Coach Tucker? And I want to know, has it been as much of a transition as people on the outside seem to believe?
So, yeah, the life under Coach Tucker, it has been intense. He brings a lot of fire and passion to the program.
Awesome.
You can just, every time he walks in the team meeting room, there's a little buzz that kind of goes through the room. And under Coach D was awesome. Loved him. Wish him all the best in retirement.
Of course.
Coach D, there was a similar buzz. And then when Coach Tuck came in, especially with the COVID stuff, it just whole new level, man. And that was Coach Tucker's big thing when he came, or when COVID started coming around. He's like, it don't matter that I was just hired in, was it February?
Yeah, just February.
Yeah, he's like, we're looking for wins. He's like, for win now program. So that's been his big thing, and the intensity that him and his whole staff bring, it's awesome. We love it.
No, when you guys started that season and, everyone was expecting transition year, whatever, say what you want. This is going to be a rocky year for Spartan fans. And then you get that win over Michigan. And that was kind of, I think, what the fan base felt. It's this guy's not coming in here, about to use that as a crutch. This is my first year here. I'm just trying to get the ropes things, especially when you come in February. Now, to someone who doesn't understand football and college football programs, you might say February to maybe August or September. That's a long period of time. But I feel like for you especially, and those guys trying to, get used to that program, used to that different type of buzz in that locker room, what was that like? And it probably felt a lot quicker than that, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, because he got hired in February, we had, a couple, a week or two to lift. And then I think we had maybe one, walk through, just kind of no balls on the field.
Okay.
And then quarantine.
Man,
and,
yeah.
Doing installs is, in quarantine, is much different than doing it on the field because there's a lot to be said for the physical reps, and just getting comfortable with the guys around you. So that was something that really made it tough. But then coming out, when we got the chance to practice, we hit it hard, man. We were going.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. And I know, especially with your strength and conditioning staff, the head strength and conditioning coach went down with COVID. I believe his whole family did. And that shut you guys down for a few weeks there. And thankfully, that was kind of before the actual season started. And you guys, like you said, out of a lot of the Big Ten schools, had some of the most minimal issues with that. What was the mindset approach, and how was that different, with the COVID bubble going on and guys being cognizant of all the things going on? How did you guys hold each other accountable during that time period?
I mean, yeah, it was holding each other accountable during this time period. It was, it was a team effort. A lot of guys, were really bought into, if you were here, you were here to play. There was no, the guys who opted out, they did a lot of it for health reasons.
Yeah.
Whether it was their family or themselves. But for the guys who were there, they were like, okay, we're going to make sure that even if we're here, we're not getting it. We're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to make sure that we maintain this bubble so that we can play. We want to play. So.
Of course you do. I feel like that's just how every team feels. Got something?
Hi, Dan. It's Jim. I'm real anxious to hear the season starts. I'm a big Spartan fan myself. I'm not ashamed to say that.
Yeah.
And you lose to Rutgers. I was actually officiating youth football that day, so I'm checking the score on my phone, and I'm relaying messages to another guy that's a Spartan fan, and I'm like, oh, Rutgers, we turn it over 7 times. We lose to Rutgers. Now, what people didn't realize, Rutgers has got about a dozen transfers that came from other schools, and as you watched Rutgers throughout the course of the year, Rutgers was a pretty good football team.
Not to mention their head coach coming back.
Greg Schiano.
Greg Schiano, yeah.
But I'm dying to hear, what was that first practice like after the Rutgers game? Because you had Michigan coming up next, and not being a huge Michigan fan, I was incredibly impressed with Michigan against Minnesota. So what was that first practice like after Rutgers? Because he had to set the tone for something.
Yeah, I mean, guys were mad, man. Like, the attitude in the locker room after Rutgers was like, this is by no means was this okay.
Yeah.
This, was a poor outing by us, to put it lightly. And then coming into that Michigan week, Coach Tucker and the staff, they're like, Rutgers week was Rutgers week. This is Michigan week. This week in Spartan Stadium. This is above, or well, it was in the Big House, but this week for Spartan fans, Spartan team is above all else. As they say, the team down the road. That's something Coach Tucker was bringing in. We don't say Michigan, we say the team down the road.
Yeah.
So I mean, right from the jump, it's Michigan week. It's go time. We need crisp, clean practices. We want no mistakes in practice. This all the way up to the game. Everyone needs to play at the 110% level.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it says a lot about Coach Tucker and his staff to be able to come in there and demand, not that the bar was set very low necessarily after D'Antonio, it's not what I want to imply, but that Tucker can come in there and demand that same level of excellence from you guys, and that there's no drop-off, right? There's no drop-off in the way that you approach practice, games, everyday things, staying in your bubble, making sure that you're not getting sick and putting your team and your other players in danger. But this is the first time since 2016 that you guys won't be playing in a bowl game to finish off the season. While a lot of people, I'm sure, see this as a downside, and there's a lot of reasons why it could be, I think it's a great chance for you guys, COVID permitting, of course, to really allow that coaching staff to implement their ideas. Like we said, he got hired in February, and really with the quarantine did not have a chance to put in, I'm sure, a lot of the things that he really would like to be around you guys for a much longer period of time. So how do you view this upcoming offseason, or I guess we're in it right now, going into your athletic junior year? You're fighting for a bigger role on the team. And if anything, what does that mindset change for the team heading into 2021?
Yeah, so I mean, coming into this year, we've had more than a few transfers come in and more than a few guys come out, so it's going to be a much different team. I myself, I try to take everything in the moment. Didn't go to a bowl game. Good. We have more time to work with Coach Novak and the strength staff and our position coaches. So I try to look at less at what's behind me or what could have been, and more is what's now and what's coming forward, and just kind of take it one day at a time. We're bringing a lot of talent in from the portal, So I'm excited for this spring. I'm excited for this, winter conditioning. I think it's going to be great for the team as a whole, and just having a chance to spend a lot of time with these coaches and really get comfortable in our system.
Of course. I love that mindset. That short-term memory, I guess, is kind of the way to put it. And I think that is universal across so many sports. Like, you go up and strike out, and it's coming from someone who did that a lot in my high school baseball career. Strike out, short-term memory. Like, forget about it, next at bat. You make a bad play in football, forget about it. It's next play, that type of mindset. Got something?
Yeah, one follow-up question, Dan. Who are you most impressed with this year? What team and why?
How's it
going? Any individual team that I was impressed with. I thought Northwestern did a good job. Last year they were struggling quite a bit, and then they came back, and they were nearly undefeated.
Yeah.
But I thought outside of playing us, I thought Northwestern, they were a good football team. They had a lot of guys who understood the system, and they did their job. And that's one of the best things you can say about a football team is, every guy on the team knew their job and did their job.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like you said, up until that Ohio State game where, I think they were exposed at a couple different areas, but their defense and the turnovers that they generated on that defense, another defensive coordinator is up for some type of big-time award. I forget. It escapes me right now, but Pat Fitzgerald and that program, it seems like, are just right there on the cusp of really having something great with a few more weapons possibly on the offensive side or maybe in the scheme of things. But you talked a lot in that previous answer I was asking you about that transfer portal, how you guys are bringing in a lot of talent from the portal, like you said. But a guy, you said you've also lost some people, and one of them being Rocky Lombardi, who's transferred to Northern Illinois in the Mid-American Conference after starting 6 games for you guys this year. Now, I'm not sure if you know this, but NIU finished this year with an 0-6 record. Lombardi's got 2 years of eligibility left. Tell me what that was like for you guys with him entering the transfer portal after Thorne came in and kind of showed up and became that guy for you guys. What was that been like, and what type of impact do you think that he'll have on that NIU program, which I say really could probably use him?
I can only say good things about Rocky. He's a great friend. He's a great football player, an incredible leader. I mean, this is a guy who he walks into a room, and he's a guy with a lot of presence.
Awesome.
And he's an infectious personality. You want to like the guy. He works so hard, and I think he'll be very good for an NIU team that, like you said, had struggled.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's come in and have a very immediate effect on their football program, come in and show a lot of leadership and, bring some oomph to that program.
Yeah, 100%. I wholeheartedly agree with you. And when you can speak to that level about somebody who's, leaving your program, that how you have such positive things to say about him, I think it speaks volumes about that person. And NIU is a team that, more than so many other teams, especially in the MAC, has kids come in and out of that program every year. I don't know how much you're tuned in and you see that, but I see, especially even up at Northern Michigan, we get a lot of kids from Northern Illinois and that type of area who are coming down to that Division II level. Maybe it just wasn't a fit for them, whatever it is. But for you, what has that experience been like? Obviously, you have not entered the transfer portal, but when guys come in, maybe some kind of bigger profile guys come into that Michigan State program, we've talked about the culture of Michigan State a lot on this show and how really Michigan State in the past, I don't know if this will change, but Michigan State in the past has not been like their counterpart Michigan. They don't have these 4- and 5-star recruits every single year. Rather, we get these 2- and 3-star guys who have a lot of high football IQ, great talent, and they turn them, throughout a couple of years, they turn them into these very productive players. So how do you feel like, you said you got a lot of talent coming in the transfer portal this year. How do you feel like those guys are going to come in and have an immediate impact? What do you see them doing for the Spartans?
So without having known or really seen anything about any of these guys, I think they'll be like any transfer we have come in. These guys, they're going to be high-level athletes. They're going to be smart. Knowing Coach Tucker, he's gonna bring in guys who he thinks are gonna play well within the system.
Yeah.
That he has designed. So, I'm excited to see the guys we bring in. I'm excited for some competition. I can't say I really know anything about the new guys we're bringing in, but a transfer that we had brought in a little while back, Jaden Reed from Western Michigan. Been very, Jaden Reed was a guy that when he came in, while he may have not worn the green and white before, he was a Spartan. Like, he is the kind of guy who he is emblematic of the Spartan mentality. Comes in, works crazy hard.
Love that.
Does a great job. High level athlete, high IQ. Great guy.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on today, boss. I really do. That's been emblematic. That was great. That was great. I appreciate you coming on, boss. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, appreciate it. You guys run a great show.
All right, I appreciate
Happy
you,
holidays,
boss.
Dan. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Wow. Dan, he was really that guy.
You weren't even here for the conversation. And there we go. Now we're into it. Hunter, unfortunately, was a little late to the pod, so he didn't.
Could be
You guys, I was here
could
at
be the
6.
headphones. It is hard to hear.
Yeah, actually, that maybe
Silent? Silent?
noise canceling.
Like,
Oh my gosh, stop it. But seriously, a great conversation with Dan. I think his insight was awesome. He was a very well-spoken guy, actually. I was impressed.
He
I
seemed
thought
very comfortable.
he really did. And that's the environment that I want to foster here on the podcast. Some good questions from yourself. I love the one about Rutgers and like bouncing back, because like that first practice after a loss that, and even after a win like that too, like to keep yourself level-headed or like, to look forward. I thought that was a great answer from him though. Like, and how Tucker kind of demands that energy. I think that kind of gets lost.
demands that energy.
Because
That's a good one.
I think that kind of gets lost because everyone talks about how he's a great recruiter and he's like this great personality and whatever. Like, don't forget this guy.
You also have to go out and win games,
Yeah.
other than
Like,
recruiting.
He was saying, like, it's a win now attitude. There's no like, okay, there's a plan to win in the future. We're going to win now. And if we don't, that's failure.
And again, that's what people say. Oh, Jim, he doesn't like Michigan, but Harbaugh's been there 6 years.
Here we go.
Tucker's been there 1 year. He has 2 wins over top 15 teams in the country.
Does.
And he's won 2 games. But those 2 wins at the time were over top 15.
Huge wins.
And let's also go back. I'm not that naive, but if they go into Michigan and get spanked, they don't win a game.
I agree.
They're not beating Northwestern. I think that season spirals, and that had to give those kids such a shot.
Oh my gosh, are you
nobody
kidding me?
saw that coming.
Nobody except for the guys in that locker room. And that's like just goes like that's all that matters. We've had so many talks like that. Yeah. Like everyone who matters is right here. Like, look outside the locker room, doesn't matter. Like, it's great that people it's great that people show up and support. You know what I mean? At any level, it's great that people show up and support, but at the end of the day, it's the guys in the locker room. Let's talk about a locker room that is on a hot streak.
Their hair is on fire.
As Darrell Bevel would say, the hair is on fire, and that being for the New York Jets, who get a huge win over the Browns, 23-16 in New York. And pretty much with that game, it's bittersweet for them, I would assume, because that's a huge win for them. But at the same time, they lose all hope of winning, that number 1 pick, I suppose, for Trevor Lawrence, right?
Yeah, but the thing you got to think about is, like, those players don't care about Trevor Lawrence. They want to go out there and win every week.
Oh, 100%. Exactly. I'm saying for the
There's
fans'
something
perspective.
called pride.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
No matter what level athlete you are, and especially at the top.
Well, not only pride, that's your paycheck. That's how you support your family. If you don't win games, you don't get paid.
I don't know if you guys saw it, and I do tend to look at Twitter.
As we know.
I believe his name is Bob Wischusen.
That I've not heard before.
I believe he's the Jets radio guy maybe. And he basically told the people, listen, he took some flack for getting excited.
About a win?
About winning the game.
See, that's
Final
ridiculous.
call.
That's ridiculous.
And he said, I'm not going to apologize. He said, I'm not going to sit there and hope they lose so they could get a better draft pick. And that's kind of how I am too, because draft picks don't guarantee anything. In fact, the higher draft pick you get, the more pressure it is to get that pick right.
That's
and if you
a great
don't,
point.
Get me in the middle round. Let's let the dust settle on some picks, and you might actually. I don't know. I just think there's so much pressure when you're in that top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks in the NFL draft, and as we were just talking about earlier, Blaze, getting a stud quarterback isn't as easy as everybody says it is.
Not all of them translate like.
Just win games.
I think so.
Win games.
Yeah.
It's so easy to say, right?
Just win, baby.
It's so easy
Just
to
win,
do,
baby.
But the Browns, who did the opposite of that,
Drew Carp.
right? Yeah, if Drew Carpenter were here, we'd be.
Oh, I
ripping
know
him
he's
a new
watching.
one.
I
He better
thought,
be.
I thought
But-
I actually might get a call to play wide receiver for the Browns.
Oh my gosh!
I had my cleats ready.
Obviously, the Browns
Possession
being
receiver, I can get open, get to the sticks,
Marvin Hall.
get out of bounds.
Marvin Hall, who was cut by the Lions like 3 weeks ago, played in that game for the Browns.
Yeah.
They just
That's
signed him
unreal.
off the street.
So obviously, if you're not aware, the Cleveland Browns wide receiver room was hit by a wave of COVID, and not necessarily a lot of positive cases, but a lot of close contact and potential cases. So the NFL takes that very seriously now, of course. Unless your name is Lamar Jackson, then we'll delay the game for a week. But other than that, no, we're not even going to get onto that. But
Do we get into that later?
maybe. We'll talk about it in a second. But I wanted to say the Browns now have lost all hope of winning the AFC North because the Steelers got a huge win over the Colts, which I personally...
They won it. They won the AFC North.
That's what I'm saying. They lost all hope because they lost it. So, pretty
Yeah, they
easy
lost
there.
it. Well, I mean, there was no hope. They lost it.
There was hope. There was a lot of hope
hope.
because if they win that
The
Jets
Steelers
game...
are playing Mason Rudolph at quarterback.
Let me just say...
the hope is
Myles
gone.
Garrett is ready.
Let me just say, if the Steelers were to lose that game, which I thought there was a very good chance they did, it was a great game.
They
And
should have lost.
Exactly. And the
24-7?
And the Browns go pick up a win over the Jets, which everyone was predicting before the wide receiver incident and everything happened. That game in week 16, right? That would have been to decide the division. So that's why
Would've
been
I
week
come and say
17.
17, sorry.
Boy, you're on him.
Yeah, he
I
is.
stay on him.
I
You
think
know what I
it's
mean,
the
though?
headset.
You know what I mean, though? Like, that would have been for the division. That game would have had such weight to it.
Is someone feeding him information through the headset?
Let's hear.
I got
Maybe
Drew in my ear right now.
Let's hear what the Baker fan has here to say, because he's, when Drew's gone, we need a little bit of an input from the Baker guy. So
Come
what do
on.
you got to say?
After
Come on,
that-
Forrest. Let's
after
hear what
that,
you have to say.
Jesus.
Was it Monday night Browns-Ravens game?
Yeah, that
weeks
was Monday
ago?
night. That was the one that
After that,
he was
after
there
that
as well.
game,
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, would it be so cool to go to the Browns Steelers Week
Oh,
17
dude.
for the division?
Yeah.
With fans.
So after that game, I immediately looked up some tickets. They're like $300.
Oh, yeah.
Now then I looked them up before Sunday when they lost. Obviously, they're up to $1,000.
Holy cow.
So I bet even the Browns
Maybe we should double check on those
merchandising people
prices.
were expecting a win.
Yeah, they were. And rightfully so. I mean, they should have been. You know what I mean? But with, the amount of talent that we're talking about that had to sit out of that Browns wide receivers room, you know what I mean? Why did Cleveland still throw the ball 53 times? I mean, for me, we've talked about their running attack.
They were down.
So often they were down,
I might
and
be
at
able
some
to
point,
answer that.
like we've seen the Titans. We'll talk about the Titans soon and how they had to do that as well. But at some point, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, they had a combined 15 carries in the night. Combined, 15
Chubb
carries.
carried it 13 times for 29 yards. That might be why they didn't run the ball much.
At some point,
Wow,
though,
I
we've
did
seen the
not know
Titans. We've seen the Titans stay honest and stay true to their running game, and it's paid off for them because the running
But you're
game,
right.
as you
If
know,
if your receivers are that banged up, you got to run the ball.
there's no reason. 53 times. I understand if you're behind in the game, you got to get back in it. The running game does not pay off in the first quarter, the second quarter. It's the third and the fourth quarter.
And it's the 1 in 15 Steelers. I mean, 15. It's the 1 in 15 Jets. Like, why aren't you going to run the ball? Why aren't you going to be comfortable in your offense?
Exactly.
I think they were missing 2 linemen as well.
Were they?
Not just
That could be another piece.
I think it was their left tackle.
Okay.
I don't know his name right now.
I don't-
It's
yeah,
escaping me, but I know
check it out.
Wyatt Teller, one
Was
of their
it?
guards.
Okay.
He was out too.
That's an interesting point. I didn't know
I'm pretty
that.
sure he's like the highest rated guard in the NFL right now. Because I was reading a tweet earlier about
Put
with
it-
him.
Stealing it.
With Teller, they're like over 100 rushing yards. Without him, they're like 88 per game.
Wow, that's good.
So-
that's a good piece there.
That could be a reason.
Blaze, put it this way: if you're an NFL team, and the morning of the game, your coach calls you at 8:15 and says, "Meet at the Hilton Garden Inn parking lot, and we're going to go over pass routes," you're in trouble. Yes, they did do that.
Oh, that's real?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
It's-
They
Their flight got
their
delayed.
coach got them up at, this is what ESPN said, 8:30, and they were in the parking lot next to the stadium or the hotel.
That's
because,
unreal.
Well, they had to get all the receivers up to speed. I mean,
Yeah.
Then the analogy that I made to them, and I thought this was pretty good. Cleveland was a lot like Florida this season. And in that they controlled their own destiny heading towards what would have been a very high stakes game at the end of their regular season. Right? For Florida, that was the SEC championship against Alabama. They lose to an LSU team who pretty much everybody was counting out, right? They had a better record than the Jets, I'll give you that. But a team that Florida definitely should have won with the amount of talent they had on that roster. Cleveland kind of pulls a similar situation with the Jets now that divisional game.
Are you comparing Bama to the Steelers?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
I thought it was a good analogy because it had the same type of storyline. We've seen how it played out.
Yeah.
And now it'll be interesting to see if it actually plays out the way that Alabama-Florida did. And if the Browns will
It's
put up a
going to
good
be
fight.
a good game.
I
It's gonna
believe
be a
so
good
too.
Game, and the Browns still need to win this game to make sure they're in the playoffs. They haven't clinched the playoffs.
No,
quite
they have
yet.
not, which is unreal. The AFC right now is so competitive.
And if
It's
Pittsburgh
crazy.
would have lost, I really like Cleveland's odds.
Oh my gosh,
'Cause
yeah.
That'd have been 4 in a row for the Steelers. Could have lost their last 5 and lost the division. Plus, again, I keep saying it. Like I told Kobe the other day, isn't it funny? We're watching NFL on TV. Of all the teams that do not need fans, Kansas City has fans.
Yeah, I know it. It's unreal.
Right?
It's unreal.
And a lot of them. And you look around the NFL and nobody else has fans, but the best team known to mankind also has support in the stands. And Cleveland, because we were there when there's 20,000 on a Monday night, and Kobe will tell you, that place was rocking for a quarter capacity. I can't even imagine what I guarantee you, if that was this Sunday was for the division title, they might have forgotten the count at the turnstile. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes. Was that 3? No, yeah, you can go. Yep.
Back to what you were saying, though, about the Steelers. If they lose, 4 losses in a row, I was actually thinking about that to myself. Like, going from 11-0, will they go undefeated, to losing the last 5 games, losing the division, and then maybe out of the playoffs if Indiana beats them. And then they clinch instead. Baltimore clinches too.
So was there a shot for them to not win?
I'm not sure.
Well, with the AFC set up the way it is, a Colts win, although it would have set back the Titans
Actually, you know what? I take
being in
that
the
back.
AFC South.
I
I don't
think they
know.
already clinched.
I would say I think they already clinched at least a wild card spot.
Yeah.
But that does bring up a great point, because if the Colts won, that would have put Tennessee in a very interesting spot, especially after their loss to the Packers,
Right.
being in the AFC South, right?
I'm going to actually blame our program director, where is he, for not having the stat sheet in front of us, where we would have had the playoff scenario all laid out, because we shouldn't be speaking about things that we don't know.
Oh my gosh, stop it. Who's the guy? Is it Kornacki? Who's the guy that
I like the guy they added on.
he does all the playoff
on NBC.
Yeah, he does all the playoff analysis and stuff.
It's almost like the presidential election.
Exactly,
Yes.
and he's dressed like he's going to a middle school dance with
I
his
li-
rolled
I
up
like
dress
him.
shirt and his khakis and his
I
tennis
like
shoes.
them, and they go through
looks-
the percentages of week whatever. This was their chance to get in.
Like
and-
that Always Sunny in Philadelphia guy that's like, all these things connect.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. That's pretty much the image that you get when you're watching him. He does a great job, though. Let's talk about a team that did clinch, and they clinched their division. That's the Seahawks. They clinched the NFC West with that win over the Rams, 20-9. They sit on top of the division for the first time in 4 years.
Which is weird to think
I
about.
didn't realize it's been that long,
Which is
because they've
weird to
had a
think
lot of
about.
success, especially with Pete
because
Carroll.
it's always been the Rams or the 49ers.
Well, the 49ers, obviously, last year with the
And then
division.
there was the Rams, I think, 3 years before.
Yeah, I think so.
But I still don't believe the Seahawks are the best team even in the NFC West.
Really?
Do you agree
You
with me?
take it right out of your mouth?
I don't believe they're the best team in the NFC West.
Who would you put ahead of them?
The Rams.
Oh, that's.
I mean, you got to think about it, though. Like, the last 2 NFC teams in the Super Bowl were the Rams and the 49ers.
Who did the Rams lose to a couple weeks ago?
I still think
That'd be the Jets. I just wanted. He doesn't have a microphone. That'd be the Jets.
they Seahawks lost to the Giants with a backup quarterback
at home.
They did.
at
They
home.
did.
We can try it all
That's
night.
fair. That's
I
fair.
think the Rams
minus the 12th man.
That's
exactly.
true.
Fans, and like I said, KC doesn't need fans. Nope.
And when you
I
clinch
think-
the division, you get a home playoff game. All of a sudden, that doesn't mean as much.
I've been waiting to say this since that game ended. Watching, is it McVay?
Yeah, Sean
Yo,
McVay.
Sean McVay.
It reminded me of calling the Walden offense 7th grade
That's middle school. Yep.
up the street. They did not run a pass pattern past 5 yards. Their offense was atrocious. I know Goff broke his thumb.
Yep,
He
and
was
he's
terrible.
out next week.
He should be
He's out
out.
next
He was
week.
terrible. He was absolutely awful in that game.
Listen to this though.
He
You know who
doesn't
didn't
know
play
how to
very well?
slide. When
does
he
not.
should have ran for the first down, he just decided to throw it up and pray that something good happened on that Diggs interception.
Yeah.
He was terrible. And these people that say, and again, I got my hat on tonight. I know we'll talk about him later, but if Stafford is on the Rams, they're
Super Bowl.
they're certainly winning that division, in my
Agreed.
opinion. I'm sure everybody say, "Oh, no way."
I think they're a Super Bowl team.
But I told Kobe that day, he was awful. He might be a decent quarterback, but again,
He's probably the most like systematic, just game manager quarterback.
That's
Now,
Tom Brady.
I will say that's true, but I will say
But
a
at
guy
least
who
Tom
did
Brady
not
has
play
good
very
games.
well. Look at Russell Wilson's stats. He had a horrific
Oh,
night
boy.
passing the ball. He didn't have one receiver with over 60 yards on the night, even though he completed passes to 8
different targets.
You look eager to respond.
He does.
Okay, so remember at the beginning of the season where it's like, Russ deserves, this is his MVP year.
Mean he's cooking?
Let Russ cook.
So did Kyler Murray, though, for a little bit until they fell off.
That was nothing.
Well,
K1 was never an MVP candidate.
For a few weeks.
During Hail Murray and all that. But let Russ cook is the thing that I think brought him down when everybody was like, oh, he's had a good first 4 weeks. And then they all queued up on him, and look at him now. Which, yes, they won the division, but he's not in the MVP race anymore. He's, like you said, he's 60 yards on the night, but completed it to 8 different receivers. So
I think when you get on a roll like he was for a while there, and you just get comfortable with what you're doing, you tend to forget like the simple things that you're supposed to do. Because I noticed that there was one game he threw like 3 interceptions, I think, and instead of just running for a 3-yard first down, he tried to throw it back across into the corner of the end zone, and the guy intercepted. So I think that's
it's like on plays like that, he has to be a game manager.
Mitch
like,
Trubisky.
We talk about game managers sometimes on this, and sometimes is it a good thing or is it a bad thing to be a game manager quarterback? Because you're saying
that's a great point.
Jared Goff, you're saying you throw that ball instead of picking up the first down, it's an interception. What if that's a game manager decision and you pick up that first down? You got to think of, I know it's bad to say you think of the next play, but do you think of 2 plays? 2 plays ahead of you.
Well, at a quarterback, that's almost your duty,
you have to,
right?
As Blaze, what would you say?
As a quarterback, I think you're spot on. I really think you do. It's not like, if we get this play, then, it's no, we're doing this, this, and this. And then if that changes, okay, your plan can change. But I don't know. What do you think?
When you're playing quarterback, you can't think of if we get this play. Well,
exactly.
First you can't get to there if you don't get the first down or whatever right now.
Step at a time.
So you can't even think ahead if you don't do what you have to do in the moment.
Let's talk about the Rams, though. They still have a great chance to make the playoffs. They could seal it with a win over the Cardinals next week. It's been confirmed that Jared Goff broke and dislocated his thumb in Sunday's game, and he popped it back into place before continuing to play. So, bad game for him, but he's tough. He's tough SOB. So, we'll give that to him. He's questionable for the game against Arizona.
Stafford.
No, he is not as tough as Matt Stafford, who's playing with a few McRibs, as Hunter liked to say.
And Rams have some COVID issues.
They do. That is another great thing. But I think they might. I don't want to say they'll be better off with a backup quarterback, but it'll be a different Rams team potentially.
Do you know who their backup quarterback is?
I do not.
I don't know his name, but the last game he started was in the AAF for the Arizona Hot Shots. Are you
serious?
I don't know his name.
Arizona Hot Shots?
Nice league.
Yeah.
Nice league.
Well, how's that doing? But there was one play that really kind of summed up the night, and it was the Rams who got stuffed on 4th and goal late in the third quarter. They're trying to score the go-ahead touchdown. After that, the Seahawks defense looked borderline elite and pretty much reminiscent of some great Seahawks defenses that we saw years ago, which is that's what they need for me if they want to make a legitimate run and have that claim to the NFC, that title in their division is that defense to be elite. And I know Jamal Adams talked to, I think it was Erin Andrews about. Man, that was a fun interview to watch. But I think he talked to her about that defense and kind of their mindset and the change in mindset of their defense coming from that like Legion of Boom stage that we all remember and then like kind of dropping off. And they've really been like a Big 12 team kind of since then. And now having that kind of resurgence, and they have some big time playmakers on that defense now. And that 4th and goal, that was set up actually by a Jamal Adams chase down tackle, which if you're on a post route on him, you might be good to go, but he is great off the edge and coming in on pass rush. He's think more of a
linebacker than
he really is. He plays like it. He plays like it. But I think that's going to be the difference for them is that defense, and not even like their play is going to be important. I think their mindset is going to be what separates them and what gives them an edge in the playoffs.
Yeah, your point about him being more of a linebacker, I'm pretty sure he's like double-digit sacks.
He's at 8, I believe.
Okay. But I was just reading earlier how he has 0 interceptions on the season also. So that's really not helping him out.
He has 8.5 sacks, but back to the Rams. So they just placed Kupp on COVID, and they also just signed Blake Bortles from the Broncos practice squad, who was their backup for the last 2 years. So he should know the playbook. So we'll see if
I'm sure he's digging into it right now. Should take him all of 15 minutes to master it.
Wow.
Anyway,
so we have 5 plays, Blake, and don't worry, you won't have to throw the ball very far. We believe in a very controlled West Coast offense type of
The Rams
passing attack.
The Rams use the most tight ends / extra tackles I've ever seen. They the more times they line up with like 9 men on the line is just crazy.
I like Kobe was saying though, I look at that team like they're wasting a really good defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Offense,
Yeah.
if they had
So much talent.
any offense whatsoever. Going back to the Seahawks real quick though, as much as we talk about Russell Wilson, if you remember, the first 10 games of this season, that Seahawk defense was on pace to give up the most yardage in NFL history.
So that's
And
that change in mindset.
It forced Wilson to throw the ball like he did all over the place.
Ooh.
And he's got weapons. Is it Lockett and this Metcalf guy? I mean, they got a pretty good offense, but this Ken Norton guy deserves a little bit of credit, the defensive coordinator, because the Seahawks defense has actually picked it up quite a bit, unlike some other defenses in the local area.
Yeah,
that have not.
Exactly. Before we talk about our Lions, I did want to say there was a big win for their division rivals, that being the Packers over the Titans on Monday Night Football.
Boo.
That game was tough to watch, man. As a fan, as we all are, I got all the Lions fans here today, but as a fan, as we all are, that game,
I fell asleep.
that game was difficult to watch, man. I watched
fell asleep and I
Thanks.
woke up. I was like, 3-point game. Went to the bathroom. They were up like 45.
But it's okay
Right.
to run out of bounds.
Right?
Yep.
But Aaron Rodgers, he adds to his MVP campaign with 4 passing touchdowns against the Titans in the middle of a blizzard, it seemed like, at Lambeau Field. And, things look pretty promising. When one of the Titans' offensive linemen came out barefoot, you're like, these guys are ready to go. They're ready to go. They're ready to go out there and play. But
They thought they were.
they thought they were. And we talked about, them getting behind and not being able to utilize that rushing attack. It was the Green Bay rushing attack that showed out on the night, that being A.J. Dillon. And he really outshined Derrick Henry on the night, which was super impressive to me. The dude's huge, by the way. He's a massive human being. He's almost 250 pounds, I think. We talk about Derrick Henry being an imposing runner, and between the tackles, outside of the tackles, whatever. A.J. Dillon, he was something else. Over 120 yards rushing. It's scary to think that was the guy behind Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams that Green Bay was just saving in their stable of running backs out of Boston
Green Bay
College.
6'2", 447", A.J. Dillon.
There you go.
Green Bay doesn't
Wow.
have any weapons.
No, they really don't, do they?
No.
They got nobody.
Devontae Adams.
That was the thing, Rodgers has nobody to throw to. That's MVS has Scantling, right? He has come out to be a prime time guy for them. He's made
Alan
huge
Lazard.
plays for them. Lazard has been huge.
Devontae
Oh,
Adams.
excuse me. Devontae Adams has been unreal, and he carved that Tennessee
He's
team.
the best receiver in the league, in my opinion.
I would probably
this
have
point.
to agree with
Doesn't
you.
have any weapons.
He's the only-
I
Other than
gotta come
him.
clean here again. I know we're gonna talk Lions in a minute, but what is intriguing to me about if you're gonna coach the Lions in the NFC, it's better than going to the AFC because the AFC is so much better, in my opinion. I think the teams there are so much better, and you know what? Aaron Rodgers can't play forever.
Just look at the
Thank
NFC,
God.
That's true.
Then
He's
the
got to be
guy-
gone eventually.
He is completing 70% of his passes.
And his QBR is
Think
what,
about
130?
that, Blaze.
Yeah.
He's first
mean,
in the
come
league.
That is a lot.
It's incredible. Whether it doesn't matter.
Just think
I
about
mean,
the whole NFC East. That's just a waste of a division.
Right. It really is.
I don't
It really
agree.
is.
Once again, we've talked about this before. I like the NFC East. I think the Washington football team's a good team.
I
think the
agree.
Eagles are on the come up.
I think you're misnaming the division, however. It's now the NFC least.
There you go. Yeah, there we go. That's original. Man, no, but I agree with you. I
It's
would
interesting
say,
to watch.
yeah, back with the Titans, though, they've always struggled being down early. Like they said, they don't get to utilize that running attack with Derrick Henry because their goal is to get him going. He doesn't have a lot of very big first halves. If you watch Derrick Henry, there are obviously times where he breaks through and just has stellar performances right out of the gate. But where Derrick Henry hurts you and where a lot of these big-time running backs, especially between the tackles, hurt you is the third and the fourth quarter where some defensive back's coming downhill and he's got to tackle him for the 15th time that game. That's what you call a business decision, a.k.a. an arm tackle. I just moved out of the way. I just tripped. You know what I mean? Those guys don't want to take those hits. Nobody does if they're right in the head. That's how you get CTE and some other bullshit. But, for the Titans, this game was brutal for all facets of their team. It wasn't just Derrick Henry and that rushing attack or Tannehill and his 2 interceptions. They only had 260 yards of total offense, and their defense let up over 200 on the ground alone, not even mentioning that Aaron Rodgers carved them.
Primetime
with the passing
TV,
attack.
too. They laid an egg.
Right?
Let's
On
face
Monday
it.
Night
That
Football?
was their... Yeah, and you know what? You don't go to Lambeau every year like the Lions do. And we were there for a game a couple years ago.
Where the Lions beat them.
When the game didn't matter,
That's
but
true,
the
but they
Lions
won.
still pounded them, which was wonderful. And the Packers fans were very nice to us. But if you're going to go there, Tennessee, you don't even have to. You're just playing the Packers and the weather, but there's no fans there. The atmosphere.
The refs are there.
Yeah, that's why you got to think about that. And when they're coming out and like, I think Bakhtiari had an interview before the game, their left tackle, right? And he was like, yeah, it's really a playoff atmosphere. And I looked at you and I was like,
Yeah.
because it's snowing?
Right.
Is it because it's
Playoff
snowing?
atmosphere.
I mean, is that all it takes to become playoff atmosphere?
There was people there.
Were there?
Yeah. My buddy, Will Ark, was actually there, my quarterback at
shout out.
Michigan Tech. Yeah.
There you go. But not a lot.
Not a lot.
There was no Lambeau leaping, let's face
There's
it.
no
Yeah,
Lambeau leaving.
exactly.
It was
So-
cold, and maybe just because it was snowing, it was like playoff hat.
But you're right.
Yeah.
I do think the Packers allow some, but you saw them between the 30s, really.
Yeah, that's true. They have little sections.
Yeah,
but
something like that.
I mean, is Aaron Rodgers the MVP at this point?
Yes.
I mean, I
Yes,
think
he
he deserves
is.
it, even
think
from a
he
Lions
walked-
fan. I just,
As a Lions fan, I still
especially
think he walks
seeing-
away with it.
agreed, 100%. I don't think Mahomes, he'll still get a bunch of votes. I just
I
don't.
hope he walks far, far away and doesn't come back
Oh
next year.
my
Because
gosh.
if there was ever a team that if you removed one player,
Yeah.
They'd be terrible.
they would be. They would be a 7-9 football team at best if he's gone.
Really?
I think so.
Wow.
After this week, I think
With their
I think
defense?
he definitely locked it up. MVP.
Oh, I agree. Because you saw Mahomes. He didn't have, I shouldn't say Mahomes had like a bad week per se, but he's not
He threw a
MVP
couple
level.
interceptions.
Yeah. And Mahomes, I saw an interesting stat today. Mahomes has NFL record for the most dropped interceptions this year with like 11. Can you imagine how
They
fortunate
did.
you have to be to have 11 defenders stupid enough?
Who was he throwing to, Ebron?
But I thought that was a very, very interesting stat. I don't think that's something that you're going to see very often. I think that's just the Chiefs. That's how the Chiefs operate. So that was super interesting. But I guess let's transition and go into our last little NFL topic here, our Detroit Lions. They are in a very familiar position, that being down and out. The Lions. That's what they are. That's how they always are. It seems like we're the most submissive franchise in the NFL. And what is that? I
don't know where to start. I'm going to feed off you guys.
Yeah, let me start it.
That game Saturday, like Daryl Bell tweeted, he felt helpless watching the game. I wanted to retweet. So did I.
I think that's a great point because when
I'll let you guys start.
let's Saturday's game against the Bucks, like you said, one of the most embarrassing performances I've seen from any franchise at any level. Really, it was like lay on your back and just roll over for the other team. I think
thought I was watching high school football.
exactly.
When have
And
you ever seen an NFL quarterback stop playing at halftime?
Yes, like just okay, take him out. He's good. We're good. But
Lightning?
and it was largely due to the fact that we didn't have any freaking coaches. Interim head coach Darrell Bevell, like you said, he said he felt helpless watching the game. You know what? I'm kind of glad because he understands now. He understands what it feels like to watch the Lions game, being an outsider. He gets that perspective. I think this is a turnaround moment for Bevell. I don't know what he's going to do after this season, what the staff, whatever. This turnaround moment for this season and this franchise. They have that new perspective, this renew. No, I'm just kidding. But
I don't know if you agree, but I say we keep Bevel as the OC, as whoever comes in.
Oh, OC. I thought you meant head coach.
No,
Okay,
OC.
okay.
Or at least keep him on the staff.
I do think
in
Bevell,
some way.
he did a solid job at the offensive coordinator position. I would agree.
And a lot of it, I think, has to come from what you hear. You know, we're not there. Obviously, we're not in the locker room, but the Lion players do like him.
Yeah, they do.
For what it's worth. I don't know
like,
how many
they
of those
play
players.
for him. They played for him. Their hair's on fire for him. That was not on fire for Matt Patricia. It just wasn't. And it's like, you can't. There's nothing you can do about that. It's like an intangible, right? Like that's not something you can measure. But your guys are going to play for you, and they play for Darrell Bevell.
Is the defensive coordinator Corey Undlin?
I have no idea.
I'm not sure.
Corey had the tweet of the week. It said Undlin or whatever his name is, the defensive coordinator and other Lion coaches feel as if they will not be around next year.
Yeah.
You've got that right, Corey. You will not be here.
And those
next
Lions
year.
were pressing the league to push that game back to a Sunday, just one day back, and all those coaches would have been back, including Bevell. You know what I mean?
We
But
don't
the
get
league
nice
said no.
things.
The league said no. So now, Hunter, we can talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about, unless your name is Lamar Jackson, your game does not get postponed. You play with what you have. Kendall hit on that quarterback and no Lions coaches.
Which that's BS. It happened to the Browns. It happened to the Broncos. It's happened to us. Like, why can't the NFL work with that? Because we're the Lions.
And in the playoffs, if it's a big-time game and there's big-time talent out, the NFL, they don't want to represent the badge that way. They want the best brand of football they can possibly put out.
Why do you think they push Lamar Jackson and Big Ben, the 11-0 Steelers, all the way to a Wednesday afternoon?
Yeah.
Because people wanted to watch that game because that game's going to make money. It's not fair to the rest of the teams in the league.
And people got to watch Tampa
Bay.
Makes me sick.
Jeez.
They got to watch Brady. That was the only game
Saturday.
on Saturday, and they weren't moving that time slot. It wouldn't have mattered who was available.
And now they rekindle this image of Brady and how he's, kind of reclaimed this throne, and he carved up the Lions defense. You know what I mean? So now the Bucks are sitting at 8 in the power rankings in the NFL now.
Because of they played the Lions defense. I hope they're sitting
exactly
at 8.
what I'm saying.
You guys
so
hear
now,
the Bears are back.
Oh Jesus! Don't even get me started.
Let's recap who they've beat since the Lions beat them in Chicago.
Yeah.
But now the Bears are back. Yeah. Good luck.
After losing 5 straight, they've somehow just managed
6.
6? Was it 6 straight?
Yeah. Lions
beat them
game was their
6
six straight loss, but they're going to get in the playoffs and get demolished.
No, either way, it's just that's good for the NFL, not the Bears, but that this image of Brady that it has almost been restored. That's something that, you can understand from a business perspective, a business decision that makes sense. They want people to have this vision of Brady. That's like one of the most dominant storylines of this year is Brady in Tampa Bay, the relationship between him and Bruce Arians, the adding of weapons. You got Gronk and AB and all the Mike Evans and Godwin and even Leonard Fournette. And
no weapons.
Jones. Exactly. All of these, and not only weapons, but all of these personalities. And that's been the storyline that has dominated so much of this year.
The end of last year, if you remember.
It's the Brady bunch.
Yeah. If you remember.
That's the first time I've ever heard that.
The end of last year, it wasn't the offensive side of the ball. Everybody was touting it was Tampa's defense.
Yeah.
And I'm forgetting him. It was the former Jets head coach that got fired that's now in Tampa.
I don't know.
And I can't think of his name.
Yeah.
I can't think of it either.
Yeah.
But he's done a very good job there.
They have one of the best, I would say, one of the better offenses in the NFC.
Yeah.
Levante David and Devin White, I think, is the best.
Defenses.
Defensive.
Devin White is a stud.
Devin White and Levante David are the
stud.
best linebackers in the
Come on, Blaze.
Devin White
former
definitely
Jets
has
coach.
it.
I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the season for a while they were the number 1 ranked defense.
I think they were, and I think he's correct. But a guy that maybe deserves to be ranked up there, right? A guy that really came in on Saturday and just proved that he's got everything that it takes. You know who that is? Blaine Gabbert. Blaine Gabbert comes in, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns against this stout Lions defense. Man, he looked outstanding.
Wow. Wasn't his first pass a touchdown?
Yes, to Gronk, right wide open in the middle. His first play from scrimmage. That's unreal. And I understand that probably weren't our first guys, in air quotes out there. Blaine Gabbert, if you have a backup quarterback come in and just carve you like that, you ought to be so ashamed of yourself.
I've never seen somebody run down the middle of the field so wide open.
Right.
Tampa Bay was on pace for 800 yards for the game.
Tom Brady had a full game stat line in the first half.
And the most sad and disappointing part of this is that not only that we lost 47-7, but that could that be the last time we see Stafford in a Lions uniform after that weird ankle injury thing he comes off, and that would leave such a bad taste in the mouth of Lions
I texted you guys
fans.
after when I saw that. I was like, I say that's the last time we see Stafford. And he said in this press conference, he needed a cart because he literally couldn't put effort on it, but he didn't want to show that he was weak, and didn't want to put doubt in the guys' heads, his teammates' heads, so he just walked off on one foot. He needed a cart, he needed to get drove down.
Yep.
Yeah, attaboy.
And he also just said this week that I'm planning on playing. I don't know what their plan is, but if I can walk, I'm playing.
Good for him, man.
Yep.
Good for him. And then he's like, I'm planning on playing, and I'm planning on getting the hell out of Dodge after that game. That's it. I know he didn't actually say that. I'm paraphrasing for what he probably wanted to say.
Your point about this being his last game as a Lion, I think that's what you would expect, maybe, some people.
But
Some people would
want. Yep.
But
there we go.
I think until you get rid of the Fords as the owners, you don't see him leaving. I just don't think they'll do it. They should is the sad part. They should.
It
But they
does
just
suck. But yeah.
What could they get for him? Do they get
the
a first-round pick?
Oh.
Do you get a first-round pick for Stafford?
Out of a guy just because of his injuries in the
It might-
past?
might
I don't.
depend on the team.
That's a good point.
He's 33.
Yeah. Like, what is his value right now? Obviously, you're not cutting a guy like that. There's no way.
You don't need to
No.
get rid of him right now.
Because the Lions only have 5
Necessarily.
picks. That's the other thing about is it 6? The job isn't as attractive as Jacksonville. Well, again, if you want to go coach in Jacksonville, go ahead. Number 1, the Jaguars. I mean, at least we're the Lions, for God's sake. But
cat.
Jacksonville,
cats.
I get it, the picks and Trevor Lawrence, and yeah, he's probably going to be pretty good. But I don't know. I don't know if we're going to talk about, like, to me, the guy that probably the toughest to sit through that game was Spielman was actually down on the field.
Was he?
During
I
that
didn't
game.
know that.
They showed him.
I saw that.
And did you guys see what a little
Troy Aikman?
what Troy Aikman
Yes,
said
I
about
was
Spielman?
about to
thought
bring that
was
up.
Great.
Troy Aikman totally endorsed him and just said,
Yeah.
like, basically, I'll paraphrase and say, like, this guy is the best thing to happen for this organization. Nobody else could fit this role just like Chris Spielman could.
In
and he
Spielman,
said,
we trust.
yes. And so, like, he said, yeah, we're going to miss him. You know, we're going to miss him at Fox, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to miss him at Fox. But he said they're getting basically a hell of a guy for that position. A hell of a guy. So I think it's exciting for them. It's exciting for the franchise.
And then today, again, Twitter, which if it's on Twitter, it's true. Talked about the Niners defensive coordinator, who I'd love to see them hire. If he comes, they said
So
3 defensive backs are coming with him. Well, let's see if we've got some room in our secondary.
Yeah. I would say yes.
It does appear that we have a couple of openings. So, gentlemen, come on in, pick out your numbers, and let's go
my
from there.
gosh. Hey, well, maybe we'll see it happen. Maybe we'll see. I hope they can make it happen. I really do. I with every bone in my body. But a team that did not make it happen in any aspect of the game. Well, I shouldn't say that. They lost in overtime. Let's transition over to college football. Let's talk about America's team, as I will call them. Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers. Cut the mullets, boys. They lost it. They ruined the Cinderella season.
Is this
and
your
I,
team?
for one, am not happy about it. I'm
Did
not
you know I
happy
used
about
to
it.
have a mullet? Like just this summer. So
Oh, no.
Yeah, he did. He did. It was
it was rocking.
disgusting.
It was rocking.
But I think he cut
Throw
it.
up a picture on the YouTube, Kobe.
Probably had to,
We'll
Throw up
see.
a picture on the
I don't want to
had
hurt
to
their
beat
eyes.
the girls, fend the girls off with
Oh,
the
they
stick.
loved it. Oh, they loved
Yeah,
it.
I'd probably lose
They loved
viewership.
it.
But Coastal Carolina, the Chanticleers, they failed to finish what was a perfect season in the Cure Bowl against the Liberty Flames. So we had that rematch, right?
The rematch that was supposed to happen.
College game day.
Not a rematch, but a
Potential
game that
potential rematch. Yeah,
happened.
of course. But they lost 37-34, and they're going for that potential game tying field goal. It gets blocked in overtime. I mean, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Can we go back to the end of regulation where the Liberty coach almost gave them?
That is a
win?
great point with the fumble, correct?
Take
Where
a
they
knee.
Didn't take a knee on like the what yard line were they?
Why are
Very
you
close.
having a running back grab the ball and stare at the defensive guys? They are going to let you score.
And then
just take a
that
knee.
was number 8 with the rec specs, and then he's taking
Yeah.
pictures of the game with the trophy. You know,
Then they
this
run
is
the
funny.
play again, and his own lineman pushes him into the end zone. This is 2020
And he was
when a
trying
running
to-
back
yeah.
to take the lead is going into the end zone and reaches the ball back into the playing field.
Yeah, trying not
I
to
don't
score.
want to score.
Not to score.
And then fumbles. That's what 2020 has been.
Unreal. How about that Liberty quarterback, though? Malik Willis. He practically beat Coastal Carolina by himself. He's a superb athlete.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch the game, and looking at his stats right here,
Yeah,
137 on the ground, 220 in the air.
There you go. There's the
Hunter,
stats
he
Beat him
right
by
there.
himself.
He looked like a linebacker at quarterback.
And he, like I said, I was about to say, he is a great athlete,
He had 2
superb
interceptions,
athlete.
though.
But he is not a proficient passer.
No.
I do not think he is a great passer.
Running back.
And he actually, I don't know if he got an injury or something, but he was banged up during that game. But, I mean, yeah, he had those 2 interceptions. And just throughout the game, his decision-making, it was very much that run was always in the back of his mind. Like, I'm not going to sit in here and really go through my progressions. Literally was quick, and okay, let's go. But he can do that. When you're built like that, you can afford to do that. He was built, like you said, like a linebacker.
Yeah.
And he was a great athlete. I thought he was great for that Liberty team. He put them on the map this year with that great season they had. But I don't see him being insane or like anything, especially not at the next level. I don't know what his eligibility is like, or obviously I'm assuming he has some.
I mean, he goes to Liberty.
aspirations. Yeah,
He goes to Liberty.
that's a great point too. That's a great point too.
No offense, but If you're not in Power 5, you're
Now,
probably not the best quarterback.
Both
going
programs,
into the NFL.
don't even get near Power 5. Both those programs were FCS just a few years ago. So they were rivals.
You obviously haven't been following the bowl results. I believe the Sun Belt Conference is undefeated in their bowl games.
Look at that. Coastal Carolina was actually the first team in the Sun Belt to lose. They're 4-1
with
this
3
year.
wins over some high-level high school
here,
teams.
let's even though that competition was poor, right? For the other Sun Belt teams, I said poor.
When your college has 5 names in it, you're not very good.
Either way, a win is a win, and I think a 5-0 record for a Sun Belt conference would have been a perfect ending for a league that really established itself this year. You have to admit, before this comment comes out. No. I want to say between Coastal Carolina, who had a great season, regardless of what you think, they had a great season, right? They lost that one game. You had a team in Louisiana who beat some big-time teams, starting out with Iowa State, that huge win for Louisiana, and they go on to finish in the top 25. And Appalachian State, I believe is how it's pronounced, they ended up having a pretty good year themselves.
Beat Michigan.
So, what was it, 10 years ago, 14?
Still remember it well.
Yeah, but between the 3 of those teams, that conference is in great hands. I really do think so. And you could say, it's Sun Belt Conference, whatever. I think there's going to be some great football played in that conference for years to come. I'm a fan of the game, and I appreciate it.
It's better, but they show them though they're undefeated in the bowl games. I mean, half the country couldn't even name their opponents.
North Texas and UTSA were Louisiana and Appalachian State, respectively.
Oh,
Is UTSA, is that an airline or
University of Texas at Stephen Austin?
Oh. Not good.
All right, is it Stephen Austin?
4 names or
four
5?
names,
No, I think
4 or
it's Stephen
5 names.
Austin.
You're not up there.
Is that what they call the Power 5?
I guess so. So, Kobe, are we getting into the next topic? A little bit of New Year's 6 bowl action.
We want to go right to New Year's 6? Are we ready for that?
I actually have breaking news.
Go ahead.
From the ESPN app from Sean Cam Jr.
Let's hear it.
Our guy, the Buffalo Bulls running back, Jarrett Patterson, is skipping his senior season and is going in the NFL draft.
Good for him. Great for him. Jarrett, we're here for
Our
you,
guy.
man. We're here for you, man. We'd love to have you on the podcast.
This is the Jarrett Patterson podcast.
This really could be. We talk about it every week.
8 touchdowns.
8 touchdowns.
I love his story about him and his twin brother. His twin brother held out. He had some offers from some bigger schools, and he said, you know what? I'm playing with Jarrett. Wherever we're going, we're a package deal. Listen to this. And I already told you this, but I'm going to say it again. They couldn't actually go for that first semester at Buffalo. They didn't have enough scholarships for the 2 of them. So they actually waited until some guys went off scholarship. And granted, his brother had scholarships to so many other places who plays linebacker for Buffalo. And now Jarrett Patterson emerged to be this guy. And I'm sure just between him and his brother, that story is awesome. Jarrett, we need you on here. We really do.
So is that going to be like the Manzo story? Up at both Manzos up in the UP?
We'll see about that. But let's talk about some New Year's 6 games, huh?
Wait, go back to who did he score the 8 touchdowns against?
It wasn't Kent State. It was the week before.
No, it was Kent State.
I think he's right.
No, it was the
It was the
Flashes.
week
They
before.
were both 3-0.
And the game was on a Saturday. Was that on a Saturday? Because I remember waking
I don't know.
up.
Maction's weird. Maction can be on Wednesday nights sometimes.
But I remember waking up
It
the
might have
next
been a
day and
Saturday.
the Sports Center started their telecast with this just in: Jarrett Patterson just scored again.
Yeah. So
8
he was
touchdowns.
great.
Well, come on, your boy in New Orleans.
We'll talk about that soon, but let's talk about some New Year's 6 games, huh? Before we get into the 2 playoff games, that being the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl, let's talk about the other few major games in this series that
Was Kent State.
might not have the same implications.
Quality team.
Will you have but first, guys, the Orange Bowl, number 5, Texas A&M gets to prove that they deserved a spot and they got jibbed. They got number 13, North Carolina, who boasts a big-time offense and some big-time scorers. Now, there were a few guys, I know it came out today, and Devontae Smith won that AP Offensive Player of the Year.
First time a wide receiver ever won it.
There were a couple players on that North Carolina team that had a few votes. I noticed that. Not a lot, but a few votes. So that North Carolina offense is legit, and I think this game is going to be a very interesting one. I personally think so, between A&M and North Carolina. But what do we see
I don't
out
think
of them?
so. I know we're not doing game picks or anything.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
wait till
That was I've been waiting for this all day. I want to get my pencil out like Lee Corso. Not so fast.
I think Texas A&M walks away with this one. I think Texas A&M actually deserve
I have to
to
disagree with
be
you there.
in the college football playoff, and I think they're going to walk away with it.
I think A&M blows them out as well.
It's not. I don't think it's a competition. See, he should be on more. Drew those two always yell at me for
I'm
saying
not going to
this.
say they should be in the college football playoff, but
I think so.
I think they roll Carolina.
If we're really getting into it, I don't think Ohio State should be in it. So,
Oh boy,
I think
is
I think
Dabo here?
North Carolina's ranking is what's the word-
underwhelming
What's the word I'm
or
looking for? Not representative. of how good they
Underappreciated?
are.
underappreciated. So you're
I
saying
think it's
they're
just-
better than
I think
13.
it's unfortunate that they lost those couple
Blaze,
games.
I know
'cause
you.
think
I was
they're
your math
better.
teacher, but I am an English minor. Underappreciated, I think, is what you're looking for.
Sure, I guess so.
So you're saying they should be like 8?
Yeah, I think they're good enough to be in the top 10. I just don't. I think
Carolina?
Yeah,
Agree.
you watch them play.
Agree. Yeah, Carolina's offense has.
That's
they're
Mac Brown, right?
Yeah, it is. But who's that quarterback? Sam Howell. He is a playmaker. He is a baller. Talk about a proficient passer in the pocket. He's got some weapons on the outside. If that defense steps up for them, which I hope they do when they generate some turnovers, that's going to be a game.
Didn't Notre Dame put one on Carolina?
Did they?
Yes.
I don't know.
They put one on.
And what happened to Notre Dame when Clemson got their team back?
Are they playing Clemson? No, they're playing A&M.
I know when they played Miami a couple weeks ago.
Agricultural and mining.
When they were playing Miami a couple weeks ago, we actually talked about it on this podcast, and we all thought Miami was going to win.
That is false. That's false. I picked North Carolina, and they won.
I have no faith
Captain
in Miami
Tar Heel.
ever. Miami's just never going to be as good as they were, even though they hope they are, but they won't be. I just have no faith in them.
I'm with
And I'm
you.
pretty sure
they're kind
North
of
Carolina's running backs combined for like 500 yards that game or something.
Miami's
So not
been
just
kind of a
receivers, they
fraud
got
this
some
year.
Running backs. It is everywhere. They're like, 7-0. Then they lose the big game, and then down they go.
Yep.
Talking about a big game, let's talk about the next. We got the Fiesta Bowl, the surprising Pac-12 champs from Oregon get Iowa State coming off a loss in the Big 12 championship to Oklahoma.
Now, I will say Oregon is the first, I guess, Pac-12 winner that did not win their own division in the Pac-12, right?
Because they're a Pac-12 champ.
Exactly, because of
Washington
Washington
couldn't play
not
'cause
being
of
able to
COVID.
play.
Yes.
And then they go in and beat USC, and nobody expected that. At least I did not. I shouldn't say nobody.
I would say nobody.
I would say
expected
nobody.
that.
Oregon came out of nowhere and showed up and got that big-time win. But
Who did Oregon just beat there at the end?
USC in the
in the
Pac-12,
Pac-12 championship.
Got
Yeah.
it.
So that was a huge win for them because USC was top 10, I want to say. Were they 6?
They were 6th in the college football
Yeah.
playoff. Yeah.
And then
'Cause
Oregon beat them.
remember
That's unreal.
Because we were talking about how they kicked Cincinnati down to put USC there.
Exactly.
And then
So it'll be interesting because
fight on.
Trojans.
and then you've
Fight
got
on.
this team right now, right? You've got Iowa State, who just lost that Big 12 championship to Oklahoma, although I thought they really should have won that game. I really do think they had every opportunity to win that
I
game.
thought their coach was going to
I
kill
think
the
Drew
official.
and Blaze and me would disagree. I think Oklahoma looked pretty good.
They
in
look
that
great.
game.
Oklahoma looked really good. I thought Iowa State, their quarterback blew it for them.
Oklahoma's
I was
finally
just-
got
I
a
was
little
just
bit
about
of
to
a
say that.
defense.
Iowa State's quarterback made some boneheaded decisions.
At the very last play,
Yes, where he throws it up.
it's a third down.
They had every chance.
Terrible.
They had every chance to
Could
win
have
that
been
game, I thought.
fourth down after that. One-
Oklahoma looked good. Oklahoma looked really good. I just
Oklahoma's
pick?
another
let's go
team.
right to Oklahoma. All right, you want to talk about this game a
We
little
didn't
more?
make the
Okay.
picks.
We don't really need to make picks. We just want to talk about it.
Oh.
You want to make a pick? Go
I
ahead.
want to make picks.
Yeah, we don't make picks until Thursday.
I better
show.
make my picks today then, because I don't know if I'll be here on Thursday.
Get out of here. But
Anyway, go Ducks.
can we talk about let's talk about Oklahoma though. Oklahoma gets Florida. So we got number 7 Florida, number 6 Oklahoma. First of all, Oklahoma has no business being ranked higher than Florida, but they're in the Cotton Bowl.
I disagree.
They're in the Cotton Bowl, and this one should be interesting because Kyle Trask, hear me out here. We talked about that Browns receivers room being pretty empty. Kyle Trask will be without his top 4 targets. Most notably, tight end Kyle Pitts, who was declared for the draft, but also Trayvon Grimes, Kadarius Toney, who also opted out of the bowl game. Not to mention Jacob Copeland, who was the 4th receiver on that list. He's had multiple positive COVID tests. He's going to be bowling by himself.
So you're
Okay,
saying
but
they
the
have a
thing-
chance?
Oklahoma's got a chance to win big.
I mean, it's Kyle Trask. He'll make plays without him.
I hope
I mean,
he does.
like-
I hope he does. I love
which-
Kyle Trask.
Which, once
I like
again, we
him
can go
too.
back to the LSU game where he didn't have Pitts and they lost that game. Offense looked slow and whatever, but then you take away those 3 other receivers. I'd still like Florida in this game, though, because of Kyle Trask.
Yeah.
Because quarterback,
I
Spencer
agree.
Rattler, Trask. I would say their defense are even.
Yeah.
I would say it's going to be a quarterback game.
I just find I increasingly do not like Oklahoma. I do not like rooting for them. I don't. So I'm going to go with Florida.
In a night,
I don't either.
On a night where actually I stayed up later than Kobe, I stayed up for that Florida-Alabama game, and he couldn't believe because remember at the beginning where the over was like 78 or something or whatever it was?
High 60s, I believe, or 70s, low 70s.
Yeah, no, it was in the 70s. And Trask.
Those people, Kyle Trask.
He won me over that night. His compete level in that Alabama game, he never stopped playing. I mean, Florida just kept coming back and coming back and coming back. But if he's missing all these people,
they had the Will Smith meme from was it like what's that show? Will Smith. It's like 4 or 5 seasons of it. Fresh Prince, where he comes in. I think it's. Don't know that, dude. It escaped me. You don't forget things every once in a while. But he comes in and the living room's empty and he's looking around. And it's like Kyle Trask against Oklahoma. And that might be it, dude. That might
I know
be
we're
it.
not making picks, but
I
Boomer
think
sooner.
And get out of here. That might be why you don't come back on Thursday.
Not if who's he going to throw it to?
I don't care. Kyle Trask. Let's go, Hunter.
I still think Trask is the better quarterback. And like
Snoop
I said,
Minnis?
It's going to be a quarterback's game.
Yeah, it will be. And it's not like the defense
He just said he's not.
It doesn't matter.
He doesn't have any of his wide receivers or his tight end.
It's not like the NFL.
Who's he going to throw it to?
It's not
Tim
like the
Tebow?
NFL when you only have 6 guys on that roster that are wide receivers. It's not like they had to bring guys in.
That's
they have
true.
guys underneath that. They have
It's almost
13
double the
other
roster.
wide receivers that have been there and have practiced at least with Trask all season, probably for multiple seasons, so they know what's going to go on. And I don't think it's Florida, so they have
Go
talent.
Florida.
Sooner.
So we'll go in.
Gators. The Gators. Let's go. I'm excited for that game.
Chomp.
I'm really excited for that game, but
He has
let's talk
blue
about
hair.
You know what game I'm more excited for?
what's that?
The Peach Bowl, Kobe. Tell me about the Peach Bowl.
I'm excited too because Cincinnati gets a crack at a big time team for sure. Now, don't get out of here with your stupid expressions. They have Georgia, and they get a chance. This is all they wanted. This is all Cincinnati and Luke Fickell ever wanted was a chance. And now, gosh, for Cincinnati, all they wanted was a chance. All Luke Fickell wanted was a chance to prove that they really are this team. And they did not instill confidence in many people with that very narrow win over Tulsa and the AAC championship. They really did, and that was a huge reason why they dropped in the rankings. But for me, this is the chance they've been waiting for all season. And if they don't take advantage of this, and I don't think they will, I think Georgia will stomp them. If they don't take advantage of this, this is for me, this is the end. This is like there's no UCF, fairy tale ending for them. They can claim national whatever.
You got to cut them a little slack, though. They didn't play for 4 weeks prior to that Tulsa game.
Agreed. Yeah.
So,
I agree.
they
And
were
I
out of
think
rhythm.
and
Out of
the
rhythm.
problem with me with that is that how the committee literally came out and said that they really value those conference championships, and then they didn't. They kind of like went behind their back. Yeah. So
It's not Power 5.
exactly. So it just that made me super upset. But I guess the Peach Bowl. I don't know. What do we see from this game? I see Georgia big.
I also see Georgia big, but if
Going out on a limb.
Cincinnati goes out there and competes and even wins this game, I think that changes college football and the football playoff forever.
We get an expansion to the 14 playoff.
I think it would
That's the
actually
catalyst.
100% come up if that happened.
I honestly feel like Kirk Herbstreit right now. I'm calling the game, so I can't pick who I think's going to win. But
From your couch,
Kobe, what type of dog do you have?
I have a bulldog. Same Sarge.
Okay. Okay.
He'll be
Okay,
rooting
and
for the dogs.
let's get into some interesting football, some games that matter.
Can we get some games
All
that are
of
tough
these.
to pick?
All of these games matter. These next two, however, I don't think will be very tough to pick for these next two games. That is the National College Football Playoff.
Just
first
ask
of
Vegas.
which is the Sugar Bowl. But let's talk about this Sugar Bowl game, right? This one will be an interesting one. This is one of the two playoff games. We've got 2-seeded Clemson, 3rd-ranked Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl with Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, the rematch that should produce some offensive fireworks. But the defenses of the two teams, I think, is what will determine who comes out of this game victorious, that being Clemson's defense for me.
I have a very strong opinion about Ohio State.
What is that? What is that opinion?
I think Justin Fields is terrible.
I wouldn't say terrible, but I would say he is
Very
not
subpar.
proficient
Yes.
at football.
When you have to stop throwing because your quarterback literally can't complete a pass, that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
Even though they're running back,
Sermon.
Yep, Trey Sermon. He did.
He showed out.
He carried the team.
Dude, over 300 yards in that Big Ten title game. He broke Zeke's record by almost 100 yards, by the way, I will say.
Didn't even have 300 yards coming into the game.
Did he not?
They did not use him enough this season, in my opinion.
Wow. But I just think that's insane. I mean, for me, Clemson, I have them big here. Trevor Lawrence coming back. That team is so strong at all facets, and I think this is potentially the year we see Clemson on top. I'll leave it at that.
I think Clemson almost beat Notre Dame with their backup freshman quarterback.
On the road with fans.
That just shows you
Did I get it right?
how good the rest of their team is. And then add Trevor, and you get what you saw in the championship game.
We've talked about it many times. Trevor Lawrence is the best player in college football. And I like Kobe said, I think Clemson's a favorite and a heavy favorite right now in the college football playoff, and in this game.
I was a big Justin Fields guy at the start of the year. It pains me to watch him the last couple of weeks, and I think who's going to win aside, I think Clemson wins this game easily. I think his draft stock has plummeted big time.
I was going to say
that. Top 10.
And hearing some of the
I wouldn't even pick him in the first 3 rounds.
I said to a good friend of mine who's a Buckeye fan, I said, I honestly think he's going to drop into the 3rd round. I said,
I'll say second round.
But
he's a guy like a Jalen Hurts for me. That's exactly Hunter, and I got that connection.
I forget what talking head on ESPN, it's a quarterback. I don't know if it was Orlovsky or somebody else that said.
Ryan Leaf?
He can't, no. If you blitz him, he doesn't, it almost looks like he's lost.
Right.
And you're right. They should have run the ball much earlier in that game, but against Northwestern, I mean, he really struggled. He looked out of sorts. And you know what? Going back to the Indiana game, he wasn't very good in that game.
In the beginning of that game, that's what set the tone for that entire game.
At the beginning of the season, they were like, oh, he's got more touchdowns than incompletions. Against who?
And
I don't care if you I don't care if you go off against Rutgers and Michigan.
Michigan.
And I love the fact at the beginning of the year, he was one of the kids that said, I'm staying in school and let us play. Him and Trevor Lawrence were the 2 biggest proponents. Isn't that funny? Now they're playing against each other, but they were the 2 that were like, let us play. And, he stuck around.
Because they have the largest platform, out of all those guys. So they actually have the ability to maybe make that change.
I don't spread in the game that said it's 7.5.
And for me, the thing is, like, in that game against Northwestern for the Big Ten title, they finally realized that, hey, we're Ohio State. We have superior athletes to these guys that we're lining up against. That's no knock to Northwestern. They do not have the same caliber of athlete that Ohio State does. Then, therefore, you can rush and you can run all over them. With Clemson, that might be the exact opposite. No. Clemson is going to have a higher caliber of athlete. Now it just comes down to, who's going to work, if not the same, if not better athletes than Ohio State. And you're not going to have that same dominant rushing performance. So it will be very interesting just for me because however that Ohio State offense starts that game, it will determine the rest of that game, what the outcome is.
And who plays.
That's a good point, too.
Their top receivers have been out. Like, is it who's the top guy? Gave or
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Olave, thank you. Yeah, I mean they miss him terribly.
Back to your point about Lawrence being the best quarterback in college football. Obviously, I was, what Dabo Sweeney said after that game about how it would be unfortunate if the Heisman didn't attach their name to Trevor Lawrence. I totally agree with that. Like if he goes through his whole college career,
that's a great
being
point.
The best quarterback every season, in my opinion. And doesn't win the Heisman once, that's just it's a travesty.
It's hard because like Kyle Trask has made such a name for himself, and like with Trevor Lawrence missing those 2 games, right, Notre Dame and against Boston College, a Boston College game where he would have put up some numbers, and Notre Dame game where a big win for him right there definitely propels him to the top of that Heisman list. Now it's like, but you're right, if he does not get that in his career, that is a travesty.
Blaze,
that's what that is.
If they go win-win, he does get it.
I don't think so. I think Devontae Smith is a heavy favorite right now.
I do too, because I think all the quarterbacks they're going to separate all those votes.
And everybody's going to start saying they're going to separate those votes. And everybody's been saying the past couple of years, it's a quarterback award. It's a quarterback award. So I think a lot of people are going to prove them wrong just by voting Devontae
Just for that sake?
Just for that sake.
That's an interesting take on it.
All the is the voting, and I'm guessing it's not done until the last game is played. Do they those votes have.
I don't know. Do they take playoffs into account? I don't think they do. That's the problem that Trevor Lawrence is going to face. So you said if he win, then it's a lock. I think it's all just regular season, and
I think they'll know the Heisman by the time the college football final is
I
up,
agree. I agree.
Because I know the award is given. Is it on the 5th?
I'm not sure.
Which is before the national championship game.
I know Dabo Swinney was saying how it's a stat award now, basically.
Yeah.
But I still think
it's always been a quarterback award, like I was saying. And the final's on the 13th, and you said it was the 5th, around there or whatever.
They said it was the 5th.
But I know it's always the Heisman. I feel like the Heisman's always been in the championship game. Because like last year, we knew Joe Burrow was the guy before. So
right here, this article from USA Today, it says, this is a great headline here. College football's national championship trophy is handed out at the end of the season to its most deserving recipient. But the sport's most prestigious individual award is not. It does not take into account the bowl play or therefore, national playoff contention.
Votes have been made.
I mean,
the votes probably haven't been.
They probably already haven't made. I would assume
the kid from Alabama, the wide receiver.
If you're smart, then you would make them vote now, because then in their mind they're not thinking. Oh, in the back of their mind, you could tell people to ignore the postseason all they want. They're gonna know about it. So if they're smart, they would have already made the vote.
Just like in NBA basketball, they always do. The playoffs don't count towards MVP votes, but it always does.
It always does.
That's a great point. But finish up our college football talk here before we get to some guys who caught our attention this week. The Rose Bowl. Finally. Rose Bowl has been moved, however, to Arlington, Texas from its usual home in Pasadena due to COVID restrictions in the state of California.
Jerry's World.
Number 1 seed Alabama versus 4 seed Notre Dame. Insider from Division I Rejects, Drew Carpenter, will be on the scene. So expect to see some stuff on our Twitter and Instagram pages from Drew in Arlington on the ground. Getting boots on the ground there, reporting for us. We got an insider there.
Hope he gets there early and gets some of the game.
Gosh. But I guess that's kind of our take on it so far. I would have to agree heavily that Alabama is going to come out. I think they're going to come out fast. And I think Notre Dame, very similar actually to that Clemson-Ohio State game. I think that first quarter is not going to determine who wins, but it's really going to determine the pace of that game. And I think Alabama, I don't know if they have ever come out like feeling out the opponent. You know what I mean? They come out and they play their game every week, and I don't think Notre Dame is the same way. I think it's a different mindset for Ian Book and what's coach's name again? Is it Brian Kelly? Brian Kelly and company.
I think it's going to be really hard for them to play Clemson and then Alabama back-to-back.
That's a great point, too. You get all pumped up for this Clemson game. It's an emotional loss, and you have to go and start back from the bottom and build yourself back up emotionally and hype up your players for this game.
With our interview with Dan earlier, he was talking about the Rutgers game. After you lose to Rutgers, go beat a big rival in Michigan. It's probably that same week of practice.
It's hard to do, though.
Yeah.
It's very hard to do, and if they can pull it off, more power to them, but I don't think they can. I don't think so.
Bama's a different animal.
Bama's a different animal. That's exactly what it is.
They have 3 Heisman candidates on their team.
They do.
It's Bama.
Najee Harris, Mac Jones, and Devontae Smith.
And here's where the college football, and people are talking about expanding to 8. We have 2 games right now where one, the point spread is 19.5 and one is 7.5.
Yeah.
But you want to expand to 8. I would just be careful.
It's a good
because
point.
if you want to water this down, it could get away from them.
I think 6 is perfect.
Yeah, 6
with
might
a
be
bye
better.
for the
2
2
first
first
round
seed,
buys.
for the 1 and 2 seed.
Like, can you imagine the NFL playoffs, AFC championship game, and NFC championship game where somebody's favored by 21 points? I mean,
No,
that's
I
not
can't.
Now
You're
that
right.
you just said that about 6, that actually makes a lot of sense because it could give
Power
the
5 and 1.
the 5 and 6 seeds, if they lost a game at the beginning of the season that they probably shouldn't have, it might give them a second chance to prove themselves.
That's a good point. And it leaves room for maybe a single group of 5 team to sneak in there at the 6th seed.
Or he just said Power 5 and 1. Why wouldn't they do if they made it that if you won your bowl, if you won your conference, you're in no matter what, no matter the record. If you won your conference, you're in. And then they pick from the sub 5.
Oh,
Because
I don't know if I like
even
that.
coaches would say that the conference championship has lost its luster.
So
And that's why they had to come out and reinforce this year that the committee actually valued the conference championship. They should have never had to come out and say that, but they did. Because like you said, it hasn't been held to the same level in the past.
Nick
If they
Saban
did
talked
value
about
it,
that too.
Then why wouldn't Oklahoma be in over Notre Dame. They lost their conference championship.
Exactly.
By a lot.
Exactly. So then how seriously do you take that conference championship? And they're in a very similar situation, right? Because Iowa State beat them earlier in the year. Clemson beat Notre Dame earlier in the year. Oklahoma came back, and I'm not a proponent of their team, but they came back and overcame Iowa State. Notre Dame couldn't do that against Clemson. You know what I mean? So like that whole conference championship debacle it's interesting, and they're gonna have to. There's gonna be a lot of explaining and a lot of figuring out to do for this college football playoff committee.
And obviously, even by appearance, it doesn't seem as much, but I am a bit older than you guys.
Oh, thank you.
Really?
Yeah, yes.
Wow.
And one thing that you guys probably have not heard over the years is a lot of times in bowl games, it wasn't the most deserving team that went. You know what it was?
The money.
The team that traveled better.
Really?
The money.
So when you think about national championship,
That's why they always
who brings
put
more
Michigan.
people, Notre Dame or Texas A&M or Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Who's got a bigger?
That's a good point too.
Yeah,
That's why they always stick Michigan in bowl games that are in Florida.
Michigan
Because there's
has.
always a lot of fans there.
Yeah, and
They always seem to be playing there. You're right.
who travels better? It was a huge thing growing up, and it used to upset people because sometimes teams were looked over that had a better year, but with the stadium and the games on TV and the whole upper bowl is empty.
It's not a big name.
That's not good. That's
it's not
not
a
good for
big
college
name.
football. It's like the NFL. They want to put their
I'm
best
not
product
saying
out
Texas A&M or Cincinnati
Yeah.
wouldn't rally the troops. You're playing in the college football playoff. You're probably going to go, but you know how many people go to Notre Dame? That's another interesting tidbit. You know the enrollment at Notre Dame?
50,000?
Try 8,000.
there. Yeah,
Really?
dude. I was gonna say it's not. I was gonna guess
They have
15 to 20.
They have about 8,000 undergrads,
Yeah.
but their alumni and the whole aura of
Notre Dame football,
and
the
whatever,
tradition, and all that.
Yeah, but I think it's like 8,500 undergrads.
It's unreal, isn't it?
incredible.
It is
Think
crazy
about
to think.
that.
I've been to
Yeah.
Notre Dame's campus.
Northern
have I.
Michigan
I've seen
has
Touchdown
about
Jesus, but-
8,500.
No, they don't. We have about 74. But
Oh, okay. Well, I was way off.
yeah, but
Hey, Tech
anyways.
has like 90,000, so.
let's
90.
9. That was
Okay.
90.
Let's
That's
get
a
out of
whole
college
UP.
football talk, though, and finish up today's pod with what team or player caught your eye this week? Who wants to start us off? Hunter?
Evidently.
Oh. Go ahead, Hunter, please.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Enlighten us.
I got Miles Gaskin.
Okay.
Saturday night.
Who's Miles Gaskin?
Saturday night.
Who's Miles Gaskin?
Can I start?
Okay, well, you can tell
Saturday
who it
night,
is.
Dolphins, Raiders. He's a Dolphins running back.
There we go.
He was drafted
Running
in the
back for the
seventh
Dolphins.
round. 7th round this year from Washington. He had 14 carries, 87 yards, 5 catches, 82 yards, and 2 TDs. Like that's not oh my goodness, that's crazy. But that one play when Fitzmagic just literally dots it to him, like it's a little slant pattern.
Yeah.
And he takes it 60 yards to the house.
yak.
He takes it 60 yards to the house, and that's I would say what won them the game, because if they don't get that ginormous junk play like that, or
Yeah.
chunk play,
Chunk, there you go. That's the word.
they can't put those numbers up and score that game-winning field goal. So I got Miles Gaskin. I think he's the future. The Miami's always had this luck of having like Jay Ajayi had one big year. Jordan Howard had one big
What
year.
happened to him? He went to the Eagles. Did he come from the Eagles, or did he go to the Eagles?
Go to the Eagles. So like they always have like this one guy. He's their guy this year,
Gaskin's
and hopefully he's next.
I hope so, man. And that game,
And I love my running backs. I had Cam Akers last week.
that just reinforced
Love
my
running backs.
belief, though, that the win probability from like ESPN and all that, the Raiders, I almost said Oakland by accident. The Raiders, maybe because John Gruden can't wear the right hat. The Raiders had a 99.9% win probability, and then they lost in that game when he field goal. I thought that was funny. But Blaze, who do you got this week?
I have Alvin Kamara, running
There you
back
go.
for the New Orleans Saints.
The guy who we probably should have talked about, but I saved it because
Yeah.
I wanted you to touch on his performance.
I don't really
Kobe, do you
have
know
much,
who he is?
Go ahead, Blaze.
don't really have much prepared, but I don't really need to.
Yeah.
I mean, he had 6 touchdowns in one game.
Performance speaks for himself.
He tied the NFL record for most rushing touchdowns in one game.
Man,
Probably could have had 7 if they didn't sub him out that one drive.
the Mormon missile hunter. You know how we feel about him.
And
on
he
this show.
says he wasn't mad, but he was probably
That's
mad.
that's what you have to say. You know what I
That's
mean?
what you have to say.
And like, I don't
What do you
care. Like
expect
people
him
are
to say?
like, yeah, you don't focus on like records in games. Excuse me. When you get to 6 or whatever, however many touchdowns, like at some point you're gonna think, hey, maybe we're getting close to something
They were
special
they
here.
were inside the 10.
Yeah,
And they're like,
get out of it. It's time for our religious zealot to go into the backfield. BYU representative. But no, I agree. His performance was outstanding, and that's exactly what that Saints team needed. But go ahead over there.
So Cade was originally the person who, your brother, that told me about this wide receiver for the Rams by the name of Cooper Kupp.
He had to tell you about him to be aware of Cooper Kupp?
Yes, until I played him in fantasy football, and he had 7 catches on the opening drive.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow.
Eastern Washington, I looked him up today, 3rd round, 69th pick overall. He's 27 years old.
Nice.
92 catches this year. He's, I think he's like 50 yards shy of a 1,000 yards.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
the
he'll get it.
stat too, he on like ESPN lists him as 6'2", 200 pounds. If he's 6'2",
No
I'm
way.
6'5".
Yeah, no way he's 6'2", 200.
5th in the NFL in yards after catch.
The yak. We were just
Yes.
talking about it with Gaskin. That's
But
important.
and then I saw today, I was like, he might not get his 1,000 because he's on the COVID list. And if they get knocked out, he's done.
You know, the last couple
But
of
he
years,
is
he's
fun to
been
watch.
really solid.
He's
There was
been-
one season where he tore his ACL, I'm pretty sure.
Last year.
Which that was
Yep.
last year?
Yeah.
Last year.
He was poised for a big season last year too.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
That sucks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
he's
him.
out.
Easy
He's
guy to
out
root
and doesn't
for.
get a chance to crack that 1,000.
Yeah.
But a guy that was seeing a lot of crack, and that being
Crack.
Oh, funny.
oh okay.
Inappropriate.
Inappropriate.
family podcast.
Not that type of crack.
We
Not
are
that
family.
type of crack.
We are family.
No, not that type of crack. But I want to talk about a guy. Well, first, my guy I wanted to watch was Ron Rivera. I will say this guy's beat cancer, and he finally got rid of the infamous Dwayne Booty Cheeks Haskin. That's the type of crack he was seeing when he was up in the strip club breaking COVID protocol. Ridiculous. If he does this, but in fact,
Ridiculous.
yeah, my argument must not be that important if you're on your phone.
I was finding the circle
Good
of
Lord.
circle of
But,
Rivera.
I mean, it was ridiculous. Not only was he a member of a professional football team and a professional athlete, he was before this, wearing the captain, the C, on his chest. That is, I cannot fathom
Despicable.
what that is like for a program like that, for a franchise like that. I don't get it. And as dumb as annoying he is, it was just like, for the Washington football team, he was their best chance of winning because Alex Smith was out, and he was their best chance. It's terrible to say that, but like, I don't know.
Pretty
It's
selfish.
Something I've seen that
It sucks. It's a terrible move by him. I'm just saying, before you go into it, I'm so glad Rivera stepped up and got him out of there.
he's got a hot point.
In 2019, Carolina fired Ron Rivera after he lost to Dwayne Haskins.
Mm-hmm.
In 2020, Ron Rivera fired Dwayne Haskins after he lost to Carolina.
Fantastic.
Full circle.
Full circle. That's the NFL, man.
And I was saying, the Washington is like the first, like they pick their captains throughout the season.
They do.
Like Chase Young got voted captain just
Good
like
for him, by
last
the way.
week, and then like Terry McLaurin got voted captain like
Scary.
6 weeks earlier.
And did you guys see today too? Not sorry, but about the Chase Young thing. Did you see him supporting the third string quarterback that went in the game? Did you see that clip today? I thought that was fantastic.
What
He
was
ran out on the field to what was his last name? Henneke.
Something, yeah.
He
With
ran
something
out
with
on
an
the
H.
field and kind of shoved him, and he's like, "You're balling. You're balling
It
right
was like
now."
right
I have
in
not
the
seen
backfield
that.
with
And
him.
that to
haven't
that
seen
quarterback, that probably that was a rookie coming out there, but I thought Chase Young would kind of be a bust personally, but that defensive line they have is,
I just think he's too big.
Cold ass take.
He's too big to be a bust.
I don't know. I just didn't
He's a
think,
great athlete.
I didn't
Phenomenal.
Think I didn't think
He
he
is a
played every down.
generational talent.
He has
I didn't
the
think he played every down at
generational
Ohio State,
physique.
but
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
a beast. Montez Sweat, him, and that defensive line.
That front seven for them, that front four even. But that's all we've got for today for Division I Rejects. Thank you for making it this far in the episode, Hunter. What do you have? A
I was
tidbit?
gonna say I have one shout out. at the end.
He's got a shout out. Shout out.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Shout
please.
us out.
Hunter
Shout
always
us out.
closes us out.
Shout us out.
Two big supporters of the Division I Rejects
Who would that be?
podcast, former coaches with me at good old LOHS, Brent Cubitt, Kevin Kopech.
There you go.
Two big supporters of
them
the
out.
program.
You got it in. You got it in.
Shout him out.
There you go. And Kopech will be excited when we have next week's guest. But I'll tease those in a second. Hunter, what do you got to say?
So I just want to say congratulations, making it to the end of the podcast. We had a little bit of different episode today.
It was very different. We're tossing
But it
microphones
flew.
back and forth.
It flew.
Man, it did.
Hey, when we got to work on the fly, we work with our hair on fire, and we work
that's what we do. That's
at Division I Rejects
at Division I Rejects
headquarters.
On Thursday, we'll be recording it on Thursday. The episode that comes out on Friday will have Lawrence Tech quarterback Brady Apple, who we had the chance to play against high school, and Western Michigan coach Casey Zenner, who will be joining us as well.
Go Broncos.
So I'm really excited for those two conversations. Super great episode today. Super great episode coming on Thursday. Another banger coming on next Tuesday. Next Thursday. We don't stop. We're like Alabama.
We do stop soon. 3 weeks.
No, we're like Alabama.
3 weeks.
We reload.
Stop. When I'm gone.
We don't rebuild. We reload.
And I enjoyed my one and only episode.
He's back this week, baby. You better be watching.
We'll see about that. Thank you for watching or listening. Division I Rejects.